Thank you. Those words, I appreciate it, even if they weren't quite true. I was there. But the bottom line is the 280,000 people that work for New York City and an awful lot of people who don't pulled together and did what you would expect New Yorkers to do. We helped each other, and we got through a very tough time, and there are still people suffering. The job is not done. There are businesses that haven't reopened. There are people that their houses may now have electricity and heat and hot water thanks to a program that Kaz Holloway put in, our Rapid Recoveries program, but they certainly aren't back, and their savings have been depleted as they have to reinvest in their houses. And it just goes to show, though, that when the going gets tough, New Yorkers pull together. And we should also thank the rest of the country. There are a lot of people from around the country that came here, volunteered and helped. And we've got federal monies, thanks to Congress and the President. And those monies come from people all over America. So we really do owe utter gratitude to all of them. Anyways, some of you may not know, but I have a long history on this stage where I'm standing right now. This is the stage where we host our annual Inner Circle charity event, where the mayor puts on a musical performance with the cast of a Broadway show to poke fun at the press and elected officials, including myself. It was a tradition started, I'm told, by John Lindsay, but my experience is only over the last dozen years in this stage. I have worn a hippie wig with the cast of Hair. I have danced in silver platform disco boots with the cast of Mamma Mia, and swung from the rafters in a Spider-Man costume. Lucky for you, I will not be doing any of those things this morning. It's a little more serious, but it's a nice morning. At the outset, let me congratulate all of today's honorees and everyone else who is in this room and helps keep the city strong. Thanks to you, we have never been in better shape, and all the work that we've done together. Crime is down something like 36% since '01. Last year we had record-breaking low numbers in murders and shootings, and this year we're on pace to break those records again and to break them substantially. We are roughly half the way through this year, and crime is down, murders down another 30+%. I don't know whether that's going to continue for the next 6 months, but I can tell you Ray Kelly and all the men and women of the NYPD and everybody else will continue to do everything we can to keep that record going. Life expectancy in New York City is up 36 months since '01. If you have friends who live elsewhere in the country and you love them dearly, you should get them to move here. They will live roughly you know, you can joke about it, and I can't guarantee any one of them, but on average, they will live 3 years longer. There are, in New York City, life expectancy, depending on when you were born and how it's measured, is something in the mid to low 80s, and there are parts of this country where life expectancy is in the low 60s. So think about that, 60 years old versus 80 years old when you die in the same country. It's very sad. We have a long ways to go. But at least in New York City, we're doing the things that make people live longer, healthier lives, and that, I would argue, is the primary purpose of government. Our streets are cleaner and safer than ever. We've regained something like 275% of the jobs lost during the national recession, and last year we broke the record for the number of private sector jobs in New York City, which was set way back in 1969. Unemployment is at a 4-year low, and I'm happy to say most of our job growth has been outside of Manhattan, where we really needed the growth to occur. It's no surprise that for the first time in something like 60 years, more people are moving into New York City than are moving away. Traditionally, people have come here. We've had births, but more people leave than come, even though our population has been continued to grow because of the people born here. Now, lots of people are being born here. The hospitals are very happy. But also the people that come here don't leave. They stay here because they like living here. When people vote with their feet, then you know what they really believe. We have welcomed a record number of visitors to our city, 52 million last year, and we are on track to break that record again. The 52 million tourists that come here create something like 350,000 jobs, particularly jobs for people who are just entering the workforce, may not have great command of the English language, may not have a formal education. But they need jobs too, and the tourism industry really does create jobs at that level, and that's important. And it creates jobs all through the spectrum, because the people that come here may come here to get their PhDs or to get medical care or to start a business. When people come here, see that New York is safe, fun, affordable, they go back home and they tell their friends, and it's the best thing, the best advertisements we can have is to have these tourists come here, and it gives us great hope for the future. The tourism has helped fuel a boom in the hotel construction industry. The number of rooms here has increased 30% since 2006, and that includes 72 hotels with some 6,200 rooms that have opened outside of Manhattan. There's something like 96,000 hotel rooms in New York City now, but people think of all the cultural institutions and all the hotels being in Midtown Manhattan, and that's not true. It has been spread out the 5 boroughs, and that gives us great hope for the future of this city. I think all that goes to show that people have every reason to be confident about the future of our city, and nowhere is that confidence clearer than in the major commercial real estate projects underway around the 5 boroughs. On the west side of Manhattan, Hudson Yards is taking shape. At 26 acres, it will be one of the largest private developments in U.S. history. It's almost 4 times the size of Rockefeller Center. And the city worked hard to make it possible by rezoning 366 acres of the far west side, extending the number 7 train to 34th Street and 11th Avenue with city dollars. The Port Authority built it, but the state did not provide that money. The city taxpayers did, and I will say the Port Authority is delivering it on time and on budget. And I hear lots of criticism sometimes of the Port Authority. I can only tell you my experience with them is that they've done a great job, and they've also done a great job building the World Trade Center Memorial, which was fundamentally funded by the private sector, but the Port Authority once again built that, and in both cases they've done great work for us. And also we've worked hard to build the High Line, which is another one of the tourist things, getting people to the west side, and the Hudson River Park, which is one of the great new parks the city has put online. That's helping bring in more than $6 billion in private investments in the Hudson Yards area since 2005, including something like 6,000 residential units and 3,000 hotel rooms. Meanwhile, in Lower Manhattan, the new One World Trade Center has received its spire and stands tall and proud above our city, and I think it is a shining example of just how far we've come as a city in the 12 years since 9/11. They are filling those buildings. They will get filled. If you remember when the World Trade Center towers were built, it took a while, but in the end, it's a wonderful place to live and to work, and that development will certainly be successful. In Brooklyn, the Barclays Center and the Atlantic Yards are bringing new jobs and new businesses and creating billions of dollars in economic activity. In Queens, the rezoning of Long Island City set the stage for some of the most exciting residential development in recent years, and helping those neighborhoods become one of the city's fastest growing and most dynamic business centers. And we're now building something like 1,000 new affordable homes in Hunters Point South. It is actually the first large-scale middle-class development to be built in our city in more than 3.5 decades. That was back when Co-op City and Starrett City were completed. In the Bronx, we're transforming the Kingsbridge Armory after 20-something years into something that is just going to be spectacular, and I think the developers are actually going to show that they made a phenomenal investment, and they'll make a lot of money on this, which is good for this city and to get other investors to come here. It took some imagination. It took an enormous amount of work from Seth Pinsky from EDC and Bob Steele, our Deputy Mayor for Economic Development, but it is being transformed into the world's largest indoor ice sports facility. And if you think about it, in the last 10 or so years, we have a new football stadium just across the river. We have 2 new baseball stadiums. We have Kingsbridge Armory for ice events, redoing Madison Square Garden, the Barclays Center, and I don't know where we're going to build a soccer stadium because it's a new investor, but hopefully we'll find a good place for it, maybe in Queens, where I think it should go. But bringing another major sports team to New York just says we are the sports capital of the country, and you'd be hard-pressed to find any other city in the world with as many different sports venues and teams as we have. New commercial warehouses coming to the Bronx, Fresh Direct, Fairways, creating a lot of jobs, once again, entry-level jobs. And on the North Shore of Staten Island, we're bringing new homes and jobs to the waterfront, as well as a major new retail complex next to the St. George Ferry Terminal and the world's largest Ferris wheel. And we think that all done mostly with private money, and this will get a lot of people to go to Staten Island and help development in that borough as well. Now, all of this is great news for the city, and this group right here in front of me is at the center of all of it. Our administration, as Rob said, he said, "I know how many days." Yes, it's 215 days, but who's counting? And he said, and he's right, we will spend every second of them working to build on this momentum and set the stage for growth in future years. My objective is to leave the next administration, which I hope will be a better administration and do more than we've done, because I'm going to be living here and I have a big vested interest. My kids will be living here. So we'll do everything we can to give the next administration the benefit of everything we've done. Each administration builds on what came before them. The Giuliani administration made this city safer and brought down welfare rolls, gave people some confidence that the city could actually be managed. And we've taken that and we've gone on and made every one of the things that Rudy and his administration did better, and that's what Rudy wants. And I would hope that whoever comes after us does exactly the same thing. We are going to work and leave a blueprint, but we're also trying to get some of the regulatory things done that will let the next administration and the economy, as it gets better, take what we have and enhance it. For example, we are proposing to rezone East Midtown Manhattan, where the average age of our buildings is something like 73 years, but we want to rezone it to allow for new modern buildings that will meet the needs of the 21st century workplace. That really is crucial to keeping that area a competitive world-class business center. Some people say that we'll have too many people. I don't think that's the case. Our rezoning plan gives some breathing room to downtown and to the west side before people could build, and in any case, we're not talking about that many buildings over the years, but you have to keep rebuilding the business center of any city, or you just cease to be relevant and you cease to be able to attract the kinds of things that we need. At the same time, we're not slouching on improving things like education. The Applied Science Campus, once again, a Bob Steele, Seth Pinsky brainchild, is bringing 3 new science and engineering campuses to our city, including a new $2 billion campus on Roosevelt Island built by Cornell and the Technion Institute of Israel. Together, these campuses there, and a new facility up at Columbia, and then NYU Poly teaming with Carnegie Mellon over in Brooklyn, will bring thousands, tens of thousands of new jobs and pump billions of dollars into our city, and they'll be the kind of jobs for those where intellectual capital is what they bring, and we want to make sure we attract them. And the Yahoo purchase of a software company the other day for $1 billion+ shows that this is the place, if you want to start a company, to go. People think that, oh, we're never going to be able to compete with Silicon Valley. That's wrong. We will do very well. Silicon Valley is a wonderful addition to America. It's created a lot of jobs and created a lot of wealth, but we can do exactly the same thing. And when it comes to education, people said, oh, we're not going to be the education center of the country. We have more people in college here than Boston has people, just to put it in perspective. So, not knocking Boston, that's where I come from. They have some phenomenal universities up there, but they don't own the educational space any more than Palo Alto does, and New York City can certainly compete, and we can add. All of these things are additive. They're not necessarily one wins and one loses. It's not a zero-sum game for this country. We have to have educational centers all over the country, in Austin and Atlanta and Chicago, and you pick the city. This is the future of our country. We want to double the number of engineering students here and the faculty, because they're the ones that will create the jobs of tomorrow. Unfortunately, this country has been going in a direction of keeping the best and the brightest from staying here once they get their PhDs, keeping the most aggressive and creative people from starting their businesses here. We just have to get immigration reform through Washington. If you want to know what you can do to help this country and your businesses here, pick up the phone to your congressmen and your senators or anybody who you've ever given money to. All these people come from around the country. They come here to raise money in New York. Go look through your calendar and see which fundraisers you went to and gave some money, and call up and say, I need education reform. This country needs education reform. We need more temporary workers to pick the crops, which last year a lot of them rotted in the fields. We need more people to create new businesses. We just don't have enough businesses here, enough jobs. We need people that have the skills to take the kind of jobs that are being created. And out of that will also come the jobs for people with the skills that yet aren't quite in tune with what the new world needs. We can do all of this and at the same time focus on the short terms, and one of which our big projects is, as I said before, continue to rebuild after Sandy. I know that many members of the real estate community were impacted by the storm, and whether your homes were damaged or whether you had to contend with damage in the buildings you manage, I think it's fair to say that our city's commercial management companies did an outstanding job of getting our city back up and running, and that was bringing office buildings back online and getting families in hard-hit neighborhoods back in their homes. And the city owes everybody a debt of gratitude. We should all look in the mirror. We all got hurt, and we all pulled together. Still a lot of work to do. In the next few weeks, we will announce our recommendations for making the city more resilient and protecting our homes and businesses from the risks of climate change. It is an intellectual tour de force that I've read most of it, and it really does lay out all of the possibilities, trying to put them in perspective, how practical they are, what they would cost, what the benefits are. And it is a blueprint for how you discuss and what you look at going down the road. Nothing's going to get done in the next 215 days. These are projects that could take a decade or more. But somebody has to lay out all of them and make sure that somebody can frame the discussion. And then the elected officials and the public and the taxpayers will decide what they want and when they're going to do it. You will certainly be a big part of that work. There's no question that the challenges that the city faces are large, but after what we've accomplished together in the past 12 years, I know the city can overcome anything. After all, there were many people who counted us out after 9/11. If you remember, the general zeitgeist was half of every company would move outside of New York City so that they would have some diversification. Wrong. More corporate headquarters here than ever, more people here than ever. Nobody was ever going to live downtown. Remember that? Double the population today that there was on September 10th of '01. You can go right down the list. All the naysayers kept saying nothing was going to work. And they've also said bicycles don't work. Trust me, they will. We recovered from the recession. We are recovering from Sandy. We are doing the new things that we're required to give people choices. And the things that are controversial, somebody said, oh, 90% of the people are in favor of whether it's bicycles or sensible gun regulations. And I pointed out, yes, that's true, but that still means 800,000 people are against it in New York City. So you've got to put things in perspective. But I think it's true to say that you and the taxpayers and the citizens of this city have gotten together. We promoted a smoking ban, passed that legislation. Everybody said it was going to destroy our economy. I can just tell you that on average every restaurant is paying more sales tax than they ever did before, which is a good measure of how good their business is. There was a governor who said to me that their son was, I did a wonderful thing for them by passing the smoking bill, because their son, all of New York City residents were going to go over to their state and eat and drink there, and then 3 months later got a call from the governor saying that they were going to introduce legislation to ban smoking in that state. And I said, why? And they said, well, our son has not spent a night in New Jersey since. I wasn't going to let you know who it was, but that's okay. And now today, all of Latin America, all of Western Europe is smoke-free, and a big part of Asia is going that. And you can go right down the list. We've tackled the difficult things. We've tackled the controversial things. We've done what makes sense. We've worked with people. You're never going to get everybody on board. And in many cases, you have to just get it going and then prove in retrospect that it was a good idea. But as long as you get it done, nobody's going to remember whether it was hard or easy to get it done, whether it was delayed or over budget or whatever. They're only going to look and see, were we good stewards of our city when we were in charge, when we were the builders, when we were the elected officials, when we were the teachers and the firefighters and the police officers. We have raised, as Ron pointed out, $59 million to help our city recover in the Mayor's Fund, and that's another example of how New Yorkers pull together. We reach into our pockets and we fund things that the government just can't do for a variety of reasons, and we're all the beneficiaries of that. This fund, incidentally, does a lot more than just work to provide relief Sandy money for businesses and for individuals. The fund also helps New Yorkers who've been victims of domestic violence and works to increase economic activity among those who have the biggest problems and helps find innovative solutions to the most pressing problems facing our city. And it's done a spectacular job, and Megan Sheikey has been running it, and Rob Spire has been the chairman of it, and you have been the donors, so thank you to everybody. This fund couldn't do any of those things without help from generous New Yorkers and organizations like this one, and you've really made a big difference. Let me just finish by saying real estate is all about confidence, and together I think we are building just that. You are all a part of New York's success. You are why so many people are confident in the future here, and why people from around the world continue to look to our city for leadership. When you say New York is doing it, it really does give an imprimatur that is incalculable value. If we do it, it must be right. I'm not sure that's true, but that's what people think, and we want to encourage that. So thank you very much. Keep doing it, and I've just, this is probably the last REBNY breakfast that you will invite me to, I would think. Then I'll have to buy a ticket. What does a ticket cost? A lot. Not enough. You have filled the room, and that's the first measure. You mispriced it. Never want to get there. God bless. Thank you.